Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalimanatosmi लये संबोधयेत् चित्तं विक्षिप्तं शमयेत् पुनः सकाशायं विजानीयात् समप्राप्तं न चालयेत्. Om. We were in Sutra number 33 of chapter 2. Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavana. So we are here. How many thoughts actually come, how many vrittis come into our mind in our lifetime? Can you imagine how many? Yes. Literally trillions of chitta vrittis come through during our lifetime. And for an untrained mind, it is always unwholesome thoughts that will come. Fear, anxiety, what will happen in the future. So the Yogakshema problem will become on the top of the mind, and therefore the scriptures say that you have to make sure that these chitta vrittis, which are negative chitta vrittis, have got to be countered. That's the premise. So for that, how can we do it? We can do it only with the help of choosing a lifestyle of dharma. So choosing a lifestyle of dharma is not for the weak. Because sometimes we say that the meek shall inherit the earth. The Bible talks about the meek shall inherit the earth. Vedantic viewpoint is absolutely opposite that. Mundakopanishad actually says, Nayamatma balahinena labhya. There is no scope for anybody to become weak, to become meek, and also to feel that somehow life has given me a difficult situation and then I will just succumb to that. So any feeling like that is called vitarka. And look at the phraseology of the sutra, vitarka badhane. So badhane, badhana means that which bothers you. So vitarka badhane, for the dharma jivana, pratipaksha bhavana is to become extremely strong. So how do we become strong? Say, for example, you have got to tame a wild elephant. An elephant is 100 times, if not 1,000 times stronger than a human being. But we still control it. Yeah, and it will obey whatever the man says. Why is that? It is because of the reason the strength of the human mind is more powerful than the physical strength, A. And B. What does human being do? He uses a tamed elephant to tame a wild elephant. So the wild elephant of the chitta vrittis, which create the vitarka and provide pratipaksha bhavana, provide vitarka bhavana, for that the mind has got to become strong. So therefore, under no circumstances, whatever challenges come in our life, however stressful are the situations, either in our own life or in the life of our loved people, we should not become weak. And that can happen only by means of pratipaksha bhavana. And pratipaksha bhavana can be got only by means of our choice of dharma jivana. Who is the strongest person? The strongest person is the virtuous person. So whether we are alone in ekanta or whether we are in company, when our conduct is always in accordance with the dharma, look at the strength of that person. So that is where Patanjali Maharshi is saying, so therefore Yama Niyama has got to be instituted, and therefore what can power Yama Niyama? We are looking at the Yama Niyama section of the Ashtanga Yoga. The reason why Patanjali Maharshi said Vitarka Bhavane Pratibhaksha Bhavanam, the sutra is introduced because only when we follow a lifestyle of dharma, we can get that energy, power, and the momentum to follow Yama Niyama. You must have heard of Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers. I quote from him one of the letters he wrote. I am no longer good through deliberate intent. So the first condition is, by deliberate intent a person becomes good. So dharma is not accidental. Or dharma is not just our samskara. It has to be done, pursued by deliberate intent. And we must go to the next step, says, but by long habit. I have reached a point where I am not only able to do right, but I am unable to do anything but right. That is the power of dharma. That is the power of the momentum. So let us look at two key phrases. How we can develop the Pratipaksha Bhavana from Seneca. One is, there must be a deliberate intent, and secondly, there must be a long habit. It is in the light of these two things the sutra actually identifies that by deliberate intent and by long habit, it is possible to create opposite vrittis. The natural vrittis which are always negative. It is possible. And then it is also a recognition that if we don't do something about it, the vrittis are always going to be unwholesome. Is it not our own life? Just think about our life. Some small or major difficulty comes in our life, how much we become completely crushed by it. And throughout the day and night, we cannot think of anything other than that. It is not belittling the severity of the situation. It is saying how every chitta vritti created by an event is weakening us. And in a weak mind, how can there be any resistance? How can we fight it? And therefore it is very essential that Pratibhaksha Bhavana has got to be decisively, unless we do something decisively. And the decisive activity, deliberate intent, is the phrase Pratibhaksha Bhavana. Pratibhaksha Bhavana is not just merely, now I am having a negative thought, I am going to substitute by a positive thought. Actually, the counterpoint has got to be more powerful than the one that is bothering us. And what is that power? That power is unwholesome thoughts that torment us, which is vitarka bhavane, makes an untrained person who is swayed by these events, it brings him out of pessimism. All odds are, let us say, are against us. Everything is stacked against us. Then what do? Should we just succumb to those circumstances, or should we stand up and then fight? Yoga Shastra says you have got to stand up and design a way of life. And for that Pratibhaksha Bhavana, anyone who becomes pessimistic very easily will succumb to the pressures of circumstances, will succumb to adverse circumstances, and whatever little resistance is possible, is also compromised. So you can see the importance of this sutra. There is a beautiful Subhashita. People talk about fate. They will say, oh, God has created, karma has created. All those things are valid. But should we actually take shelter and saying, oh, this is all karma, I'm going through that, and that what a terrible thing. Udyoginam purusha simha mupaite Lakshmi. To whom does Lakshmi favor? To a purusha simha, to a lion of a man. Purusha simham. To him upaite Lakshmi. He is the one who is going to be successful. Ka purusha in Sanskrit means cowards. Daivena deyamiti ka purusha vadanti. It is the cowards who say that fate is responsible for all this. Karma is responsible for all these things. Daivam nihatya kuru paurusham atma shaktya. Set aside fate. When you set aside fate, the Atma Shakti will come and manifest itself. And you do the Paurusha with Atma Shakti. Kuru Paurusham Atma Shaktya. Then, will we succeed? Maybe, maybe not. But you are given a good fight. Yatne krite yadi nasiddhyati kotra doshaha. Having worked for it, if it doesn't succeed, you are not responsible. Pratipaksha bhavana is to make us a Purusha Simha. That's the power of Yoga Shastra. And how to become a Purusha Simha is followed by the Yamanema. But you have got to build up the case for that. So we had gone to the Gir forest. If ever you have gone to India, Gujarat, you have to visit the lions preserve there. So we went into the forest at around 12:30 or so, and then the people said that if you go around 12:30, 1 o'clock, that's when the lions would have all eaten, and they will be actually basking in the sun. You'll be able to see more of them. And then so we timed it in such a way we went at that time, and we come upon a few families of the lions. The birds and the animals, they are all in safe distance, so they can run away. We could see all of them. We could see deer and so on and so forth. Everybody at safe distance. These lions are sitting in such majesty. I remembered this part of Yoga Shastra when I was traveling there. Look at this lion. It is not afraid of any animal. And its very demeanor is one of confidence. So we will also see when we are doing the Ashtanga Yoga, when he talks about the asana, Stiram Sukham Asanam. When you are looking at that asana, what should be the quality of that asana? It should be like a lion sitting. An elephant is much bigger, much stronger than a lion. Even an elephant is afraid of a lion. And how does the lion strike an elephant? It jumps onto the head, tears open and eats. Matte bhendra vibhinna kumbha pishita grasaika baddhaspruha, says Bhartrahari. The power that it has got, the internal power that it has got is, it is only interested in tearing open the head of an elephant and eat the meat there. That means Pratipaksha Bhavana is not just a meek resistance, but it is to take a decisive action by analyzing the problem, by searching for the proper solution. If perfect solution is not available, adjust to the situation. And then a neutrality also has to be developed in the Madhyastha Bhava. Vedanta talks about it. very important thing, whenever difficulties strike us, one of the classic responses of Pratibhaksha Bhavana is to keep busy and productive. When difficulties come, it is very easy for us to say, I don't want to see anybody, I don't want to talk to anybody, I want to be alone. And being alone, what do? Over and over and over, the same chittavrittis which is perpetuating the misery will continue. Just keeping busy. And then we have to cultivate a bhava samadhi. Yeah, that's why Ishvara Pranidhana is introduced. Why Ishvara Pranidhana is part of Yoga Shastra? It is because when difficulties come, there must be a bhava samadhi in Ishvara Pranidhana, and then Ishvara, you discover the entire universe in Ishvara, your Ishtadeva. Vishnu Sahasranama is a classic example. All of us know that Vishnu Sahasranama was given by Bhishma Pitamaha. But notice this. We are all chanting Vishnu Sahasranama given to us by Bhishma Pitamaha, right? But he is the one who composed it. He composed it in Vitarka Badhane. Extreme situation. In that to compose Vishnu Sahasranama is the Brahmi Sthiti that Krishna talks about in the second chapter. Look at the connections. Mahabharata, Vishnu Sahasranama, his attitude. You see a lion in the wild. Everything, what is it teaching us? Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti advat. Into the ocean, so many things are flowing in. But look at how the ocean takes all these difficulties, and therefore Pratipaksha Bhavana is an extremely powerful methodology when there is Vitarka is challenging us. So in the next sutra, he actually establishes in what way the Vitarkas give rise to. Vitarka himsadayaha kritakarita anumodita lobha krodha moha purvaka mrudu madhya adhimatra dukkha ajnana ananta phalaha iti Pratipaksha Bhavanam. How to cultivate Pratipaksha Bhavana? So let us see. There is a cause. What is the cause? The cause is an action. Then, what is the character of the cause? It is driven by an emotion. How many kinds of vitarkas can be there determines the intensity. And there is always an outcome also. Let us look at in these four heads. First and foremost, look at the act which causes vitarka. What are they? We do something, krita. We make somebody else do something, karita. We may be persuaded to do something by another person. So three elements, three causes only. We do, or we get somebody else to do, or somebody else inspires us to do something. Krita, karita, anumodita. This is the cause. What is happening after this action? If it is causing the emotion of lobha, krodha, moha. So now we have got to identify the chittavritti. If the chittavritti caused is lobha, krodha, moha, then what is the swarupa of the chittavritti? Vitarka. Tarka means logic, reason. Tarka means rational, rationale. We means that which doesn't have all these. If we sit and contemplate on our emotions, in the light of this sutra, you can very clearly say, are these coming from tarka or vitarka? It is lot of emotions are coming from vitarka only because of three things Patanjali Maharshi identifies, which is lobha, krodha and moha, about which we have talked quite a bit. Then, what kinds, how does it manifest? In the beginning, it is very, very feeble, mrudu. In the feeble state, we must actually cut it down. Suppose we don't, it matures. Just like we take the weeds out in our yard. If the weeds are ignored, then it becomes more and more difficult to pull them out. And it can also be adhimatra. Adhimatra means it can be absolutely difficult to take it out. So that means it has taken strong root. Adhi means root. It would have taken strong root, and the phala is dukkha and ajnana. And this dukkha and ajnana in mrudu state is finite. Because of pratipaksha bhavana, you can overcome that quickly. But suppose we let it grow and take strong roots, ananta phalaha, it becomes endless. Please don't forget, unless we are strong, unless we are resistant, we can never fight this problem. So one has to become like a lion. One has to become a Purusha Simha. So we have to create this vitarka by means of careful analysis and pratipaksha bhavana. And this pratipaksha bhavana, then how does this vitarka, krita karita anumodita, what is done by us, what is we are asked to do, or what we have approved, etc. All of them we talked. Then how to counter that? For countering that and making ourselves strong, Patanjali Maharshi introduces two very important sutras, Yama and Niyama. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara, Pranidhanani. Both of these sutras we saw in our last class. Now we have got to expand and see how should I use these yama niyamas to create the pratipaksha bhavana, to strengthen ourselves. For that now we look in 35, Sutra number 35, he introduces Ahimsa pratisthayam tatsannidhau vairatyagaha. When the yogi is established in ahimsa, enmity or vairaha or antagonism towards others, antagonism of the others towards us, both of them will get resolved. So himsa is a manifestation of weakness. We are seeing this in world politics even today. Why is it that Russia is becoming more and more prone to himsa? It only shows weakness. Whether it is at the individual level, family level, or at the national, international level, when you see himsa, please note it is a sign of weakness. And therefore a yogi practices ahimsa. Now, ahimsa comes, himsa comes because of my hatred towards somebody else. It can also, somebody else means not individual, but it can also be an attitude, it can be a situation. I hate this happening to me. I hate traffic jam, let us say. There's nothing you can do about traffic jam, but you say, I hate traffic jam. Very statement shows that there is hatred, Vairam. So this state is, when a person is established in ahimsa, the beautiful thing is, the hatred of the other person also gets resolved. That's the magic of non-violence. There's a beautiful episode in the life of Jesus. Jesus was teaching on the Mount of Olives. So I have not gone to Jerusalem. One day, whenever we go, we should do that. It is just right next to Old Jerusalem. There is a place called Necropolis. In Necropolis, there is a small hillock, and that hillock is called Mount of Olives because in the olden days, it was completely covered by olive. It was an olive grove. And then it is also a place where a lot of Jews have been buried. That's why it's called the Mound of Olives. Jesus was there. This is from the Gospel of John. He was there. He was actually preaching on that day. So obviously, even for a person like Jesus, there are people who hate him. But Jesus is ahimsa pratishtha. He is completely established in ahimsa. So now the scribes and the Pharisees, what they do is they catch a woman committing adultery red-handed. In the jurisprudence of Moses, for any woman who is caught in the act of adultery, she has to be stoned to death. So they wanted to somehow put down Jesus because of the hatred, right? Put down Jesus. So what they do is they bring this woman, and then they say that we have caught this woman in adultery. According to the law of Moses, she has to be stoned. So, Rabbi, what do you want us to do? Why should they ask this question? The hatred towards a person can manifest in different ways. The hatred of the scribes and Pharisees, their thinking was like this. If he said, let the woman go, then what happens? He is disobeying the law given by Moses. Suppose he tells them, do not stone her. Then Jesus is not a savior. Because what was the claim of everybody? Jesus is a savior. He says, okay, go ahead and stone her. Then he is not saving the woman. Suppose he keeps quiet, doesn't say anything. Then we can say Jesus is not a wise person. Can you see how he can get entrapped? So this is a very well-known episode in the life of Jesus. He waits for a little moment. He is ahimsa pratishtha. Vairatyagaha, he has no hatred towards the woman. He has no hatred towards the Pharisees or the scribes. He slowly gets up and then he says, whoever in amongst you has not sinned, cast the first stone. This is a very well-known story, but we have to analyze it in the light of this sutra. So whoever has not sinned, cast the first stone means unless a person starts stoning, others will not stone. That's the sequence of events. So nobody dared do that. everybody go away. Only Jesus and the woman are left. Why did everybody leave? Ahimsa pratisthayam vairatyagaha. In the presence of a person who has committed himself to non-violence, nobody can hate that person. We have seen in the life of the Buddha, we have seen. In the life of Angulimala, we have seen this story. So, ahimsa pratisthayam vairatyagaha, fine. What about pratipaksha bhavana? How did Jesus express pratipaksha bhavana? Only two people were left. When two people were left, Jesus asks this woman, where are all the accusers that brought you here? He asked the woman, where are all the accusers who brought you here? They're all gone, Rabbi. Has anyone condemned you? They did not have time to condemn her because they wanted to put down Jesus. She was not the object there. Has anyone condemned you? And she said, no, no one has condemned you. Now look at the person who has pratipaksha bhavana, ahimsa pratishtha. Neither do I condemn you, says Jesus. Neither do I condemn you. Do you think he should stop there? Or should he continue and say something more? This is the quality of a great teacher. He says, now go and sin no more. What forgiving? Now go and sin no more. He didn't stop there also. Because what if he had stopped with that statement? I am the one who is convinced, because the Pharisees have brought this woman, told them that she has committed adultery, and adultery is a sin. I have identified this as a sin, and therefore I am instructing her, go and sin no more. How carefully we have to study. He says, I judge no one. I judge no one. I am not coming to the conclusion that you have sinned. But he says you sin no more. What does it mean? He is acknowledging that no human being is there in the course of life doing some sin or the other. At least you have killed a cockroach in your house. Isn't it? This is ahimsa pratisthayam tatsannido vairatyagaha. There's another lovely legend in the Jaina life of Mahavira. Mahavira was the one who actually promoted ahimsa to its maximum extent. And he was a senior contemporary of Buddha, 6th century, before the current era. He had to go to a town called Vatsa. In Prakrit it is called Vacha. So he had to go there. He comes upon a village, and from that village he has to walk through a forest to reach the other village. So when he comes there, all the villagers who were at the edge of that forest were all in extremely heightened alert, and they were very scared. You could see everybody so scared. Mahavir Swami asks, why are you all so stressed and so strained? Why is that? Sir, you want to go to the town of Vacha, don't go through the forest, even though it is a shortcut. Circle round and go. Why is that? In the forest, there is a huge venomous cobra by name Chanda Kaushika. This Chanda Kaushika, for no reason, he will throw venom at people. He is so powerful that even from 100 yards, if he looks at you, you will be poisoned. That is his capacity. So please don't go to the forest. Mahavira says, I am established in ahimsa. Nothing can happen to me. If something happens to me, that is fine. I am not going to develop fear. Please note, when a person is established in non-violence, there is no fear. Where there is no fear, there is no anxiety. Is that not yoga? I have no fear. He insists, and Mahavira enters the forest. The lush green forest ends. A dry patch of the forest appears before him. He knew immediately this is the territory of Chandakoshika. So he goes there and sits in meditation. And Chandakoshika discovers that some intruder into the forest has come. So he comes out of his burrow, glares at Mahavira from that distance. And then from there itself he shoots venom. Nothing happens to Mahavira. Chandakoshika is intrigued. He hisses, raises his hood, waves it. Nothing perturbs Mahavira. Comes closer to him. And then he says, get out of my territory. Nobody will live here alive. I'm going to kill you. Still smiling, meditating Mahavira. Ahimsa pratishtha. So Chandakoshika stings him in the toe. So the Purana is always metaphoric. The Purana says that when Mahavira was stung, instead of blood, milk flowed from his toe. How do you interpret this? Don't look at it literally. How do you interpret this? Even if he is injected with the venom, in ahimsa pratisthayam vairatyagaha, he will only give out the nectar of milk. Something which we are all very familiar, which we experience all the time. Come spring, you take a walk in the development. What will the people have done? They would have fertilized, they would have put manure, and they would have mulched, correct? When you go for a walk, from every yard, what an amount of stench, isn't it? We breathe out carbon dioxide, which the trees absorb, and they give out oxygen. What are we giving these plants and trees? Stinking manure, piercing pieces of wood called mulch. But what do they give us in turn? Beautiful flowers, lovely fruits. We can get out of the stench, go into our air-conditioned house. But the trees stay there in that strength throughout the day. If I don't see a consciousness, a chaitanyam in those trees who are sitting in that stench, then I am not sensitive enough, isn't it? This is ahimsa pratisthayam vairatyagaha. All these things will happen, but look at these plants, look at these trees with compassion. Phalanti vrikshaha. Why do they give fruits? Paropakaraya. Manifestation of ahimsa is not only vairatyaga, not only making the other person give up hatred towards us, but also to create a fruit. And that fruit is peace and tranquility. And that fruit is beauty. That's why in spring the whole atmosphere dances. Patanjali Maharshi wants us to develop that sensitivity. Of course, because this is sutra literature, he cannot give so much of explanation. It needs an interpretation. Now the question is ahimsa alone adequate? If it was, then why should he include in the yamas, asteya, brahmacharya, parigraha, matas, and satyam? Why he should have included? It is because ahimsa is only a value. It is only an attitude. And that value and attitude has to manifest itself in conduct. In conduct of speech, action, satyam. In the conduct of non-appropriation, non-stealing, asteya. In the conduct of brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is not mere incontinence, we will see. It's not mere control of sensual urges. And non-grabbing, aparigraha. All of them are manifestations of ahimsa, and therefore Patanjali Maharshi says it is not enough if you just have an attitude of ahimsa. You must be established in satya also. Look at the beautiful sutra, next sutra. Satya pratisthayam kriya phalashrayatvam. What is scripture? Satya pratisthaya. When you are established in truthfulness, kriya phala ashrayatvam. Ashrayatvam means an environment is created. An environment for what? An environment for the fructification of our actions. What is the use of all our actions if it does not result in a desired result? When ahimsa is combined by satya, actual manifestation of truthfulness in speech, in body and in mind, kaya, vacha, manasa, then what happens? For all our actions to give the proper fruit, an environment is created. Satya pratisthayam kriya phalashrayatvam. And look at the beauty. The results are obtained without fear and anxiety. That's the power of satya. In every activity that we undertake, what is the vritti, chitta vritti? Will this work? Will this not work? Will we be successful? You have taken the project of building a humongous temple. And it's not cheap. And how many people are there who will say it is not necessary? How many people are there? If you are not established in Satya Pratishtha by saying, we are building this temple because it is the right thing to do. If that conviction is not there in me, what happens? In the administration, politics will come. Why is it a lot of our institutions are suffering because of politics? There is no Satya Pratishtha. There is no Ahimsa Pratishtha. See how these sutras are so urgent and they are so personal. When there is Satya Pratishtha, then there is no chance of failure. If it fails, you have the maturity to face it. You have the maturity to take it. Yatne krite yadina siddhyati kotra doshaha. After all the effort, if it doesn't work, it's not your fault. Beautiful Subhashita. But that is only the fourth line. There are 3 lines preceding that. Become a Purusha Simha. Don't become a coward, Kapurusha. Set aside fate. Then if it doesn't work, that's okay. And therefore, Kriya Phalatvam is Dharma Kriya. Dharma Kriya's Phala is Punya. Because the person is Ahimsa Pratishtha, Satya Pratishtha, that Punya Phala is not only for me. It's for everyone. One who is in Ahimsa Pratishtha and Satya Pratishtha, because he is established in these values and is aparigraha. See, we have got to look at this in toto. I am not even grabbing the punya phala. That is aparigraha. Can we extend our chittavritti to that level? Why do we do puja? Why do we do worship? Why do we do dana, dharma and all those things? So I can get punya, right? But a person who is practicing yama, who is practicing aparigraha, all of these are very intimately interrelated. You cannot take away even one of them. When you are practicing aparigraha, even punya phala also, you give it away to everybody. Without regret. No remorse. This is the wealth of Satya Dharma. There are 3 beautiful stories in the Mahabharata, 3 Upakhyanas of Mahabharata. In the light of these, we have got to examine them. One is Satyavan Savitri. The second one is Urvashi Pururava story. And the third one is Ruru Pramadvara story. There are 3 beautiful episodes in the Mahabharata. Of these, Urvashi Pururava story is very, very ancient. In fact, so ancient that story is in the first mandala of the Rigveda. So in Urvashi Pururava story, what happens is Pururava was the king of Kosala Desha, and then he chances to see Urvashi, and their eyes meet. It becomes love at first sight, and both of them like each other. But Urvashi is an apsaras, so she cannot actually be in the earthly realm all the time. So there was a limit placed as to how long she can stay. And once that limit was crossed, then she had to leave. Satya Pratisthayam. Yeah. So was Pururava true to his love? This is another thing. Commitment to his lover was so absolute that Pururava follows her to the heaven. Now let us come back and apply the yamas. What is the yama? In this yama, he is Satya Pratishtha. But Satya Pratishtha also had to be coupled with Ahimsa Pratishtha. So what is Ahimsa Pratishtha here? If he leaves his kingdom and then he goes away following his lover to Swarga, what happens to the kingdom? Arajakatvam. One example. While we agree that he is established in Satya, if it is not coupled with the other values. Parigraha. There was a situation when Urvashi had to be with him for this period of time, and then he had a wonderful family life. Then he has to let her go, isn't it? If you have to let them go mentally and physically, that is a parigraha. Usha and I met and we loved each other and we married and we lived for 52 years. Can I follow her to the heaven like like Pururava did? If I do that, I will be causing ahimsa to the rest of the family. I'm just making it personal so we understand the sutra. We have to let go. Otherwise, brahmacharya cannot be practiced, isn't it? So what is brahmacharya? Brahmacharya is not just practicing sexual celibacy. Brahmacharya is to have tenderness towards everybody else. Think of my children. They have already lost a parent. Are they ready to lose another parent? Just for the sake of my love for my wife. Please contextualize the study of the sutras. So what is brahmacharya? Brahmacharya is the tenderness with which you deal with the emotions of other people. I have to become both the mother and father to my children, isn't it? Is that not the duty? We string jasmine flowers. When you string jasmine flowers, how do you pick up the flowers? Can you be rough with the flowers? It has to be picked up with total tenderness. Otherwise, our own heat of our fingers actually will wilt the flowers. Everybody's heart around us is, please think, it is like that tender jasmine flower. And when we string and you make a garland out of it, even after making the garland, when you want to put it on the Lord, how do we do it? With absolute care. You hold it at the edge. Everything is yoga. Next time you put the garland, think about this, that every flower represents a heart of the people around you. That is brahmacharya. It's not just look at the translation as a celibate person. What does it say? Until such time, my time comes to leave this world, I cannot give up yama. If I say I am frustrated with my life, it is causing himsa only. Then we must cultivate the pratipaksha bhavana for that. And so Satyavan Savitri, Pururava and Urvashi story. In the story of Ruru Pramadvara also, it was a similar situation. Ruru is a prince and he goes to an ashrama, he looks at the beautiful girl Pramadvara, they fall in love with each other and then they were engaged And before the wedding has to take place, with all the friends, they will be playing the hide and seek. They tie the eyes of Pramadvara with cloth, and the other friends will be playing and say, catch all, catching. And they say, oh, Ruru is here, Ruru is here. And she keeps running, and inadvertently, because her eyes were tied, she steps on a snake, and the snake bites. And when the snake bites, she loses consciousness and falls down. And then Ruru is inconsolable. And when he comes, and then he invokes the Devatas. And the Devatas say that if you give half of your life to Pramadvara, she will come to life. And he gives half of her life, half of his life. And they are revived. Here also what has happened is, he has stolen away his contribution to his country for the half-life. That's his nuance here. Because his father is old, his father is going to die, who is going to take care of the kingdom? So in the interest of his personal grief, he gave up his responsibility to the society. And that is stealing. Do you see the depth of these values? Every single action, thought, vrittitta vritti we have has got to be examined in toto on the basis of these 10 values. 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. Now let's come to, finally, before we close today's class, we will look at, all these stories are known to you. I'll give the analysis. Satyavan Savitri story. In Satyavan Savitri story, Savitri definitely is immensely in love with Satyavan. He is young. And then she goes and revives the life of her husband, brings back from Yama. She doesn't go to Yamaloka. She doesn't go to Yamaloka like Pururava did go to Swarga. She doesn't trade half of her life to revive her husband, because her service is required. So the way in which she argues with Yama, finally what she does is, she not only revives her husband, but she says that to my father-in-law, he who had lost sight, she gets him eyesight. Her father Ashwapati, who had lost his kingdom, she retrieves the kingdom for her. This is Satyavan Savitri story, is where Savitri displays all the 5 values of Yama perfectly. This Dharma Sukshma is what Patanjali Maharshi wants us to practice. Otherwise, Pratipaksha Bhavana cannot happen. Because Pratipaksha Bhavana, Vitarka Vadane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. What is the Vitarka? The Vitarka in the episode of Jesus is, after all, one woman, they will stone, what can I do? That's the law of the land. He could have taken that position. He will not fail from saving even one person. If he had ignored even that one person, the statement you read in the billboards, Jesus saves, will be a falsehood. Isn't it? Then, in the case of Mahavira, I am an ahimsa pratishtha, and therefore I will go around the forest. He would not have taken away the Vaira in Chandakoshika. Bhagavan Buddha could not have taken away the Vaira in Angulimala. So look at our project. It is not enough if we are good. It is not enough if we are strong. We must make every effort to make the world strong, to make the world good. Just as a tamed elephant tames a wild elephant. We are all tamed elephants. In our own power, as much as we can, in our own limitations, we have got to tame the elephant, which is wild. And for that, we have to do first ourselves. These are the yamas. We'll see more in our next class. Thank you.